This is Moments of Truth, the webcast with and for customer success professionals. I'm Andrew Marks, co-founder of Success Hacker, and today I am joined by Shari Srebnick, head of customer success US at Searchmetrics, a global provider of the data, software platforms, and expertise that drive online revenue and elevate brands. Shari, welcome to the program, and thanks for making time for me today. Why don't you tell our viewers and listeners more about you and the Searchmetrics platform?
Thank you, Andrew. I am a native New Yorker. I'm sure everyone will recognize the accent as I continue to speak. I am passionate about customer success. I love good tequila, and I'm a big fan of the New York Rangers. Searchmetrics, that was a great intro for us. To simplify it though, we are a global SEO and content marketing software platform. We work with tons of different companies across many industries like e-commerce, media and publishing, higher education, travel, you name it. Really anyone that's looking to improve their online presence and, bring in the kind of traffic that they're looking for.
Excellent. Thanks for the overview. I noticed that you didn't mention the Jets or the Giants.
No.
They're not doing well, are they?
Hockey's my favorite. It's everything else and then it's
nice.
Rangers and the Mets,
yeah.
and then everything else.
And then there's everything, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a big hockey fan as well.
Yeah.
Sharks, but it's my Sharks.
I get it. You guys, it doesn't bother me, the Sharks, because we're not even in the same conference, so I don't get it. I'm not going to get jacked up about it.
Exactly. But if you were a Las Vegas fan, I would be told we wouldn't be talking now. Okay? Because I can't stand Vegas.
It's an expansion team. They've been around for 5 minutes. Absolutely not. No.
They bought their cup. they bought their cup.
My team is an original 6.
Yes, it was.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I can't have a conversation about a team that's been around for 5 minutes. And I don't mean like other teams that are reincarnations of the team that was there before, like the Minnesota North Stars became the Dallas Stars. And then it was Minnesota Wild. Like those markets existed. So that to me is different.
Yeah.
That's my rationale for hockey.
I love it. I love the rationale. And I love our joint distaste of the Las Vegas Knights. Yeah, exactly. All right. And by the way, any Las Vegas Knights fans out there, we definitely we respect you. We just don't like your team. Anyways, thanks for the overview and the little sports diversion there. So when we met a couple of weeks ago to prep for this, we were talking about we actually had a great prep conversation. We were talking about what I referred to as the Venn diagram of discovery, or taking a consultative approach. That is active listening, open-ended questions, and empathy. That three-legged stool. So I thought we could kind of revive that conversation and talk more about that, because it's such a important piece of the puzzle as a customer success manager.
It is. I think it's actually important. Obviously we're talking about customer success, but I think being able to capably active listening, have empathy for people, I think that goes a long way in any area of your life. So I think this is a valuable skill that you can continue to hone over time. And it's especially helpful for those of us in customer success and in client-facing roles where we're talking to people. And if our role is to advocate for them and guide them in the right direction towards goals and objectives, how are we going to do that if we don't ask and if we don't know what we're driving towards?
Yeah, we need to understand what it is they're trying to achieve. We need to understand what their objectives are, what their outcomes are, what keeps them up at night.
Right. And what challenges they face. Like they might want to achieve something, but their day-to-day is tough and they're pulled in different directions, or they can't get X and Y done because they have to rely on 2 other teams. So having that empathy and being able to understand like a day in their life when you're trying to help them and guide them is hugely important, because then You can get frustrated that, why didn't you just do what I told you? Well, maybe it's not that simple.
Yeah, this person had blockers. This person, and to your point, it's kind of integrated into everything that we're doing in customer success, right? How do we achieve the desired outcome? How do we demonstrate value? How do we navigate the challenges and the roadblocks that are likely to occur during the onboarding phase? How do we drive adoption, right, beyond feature function training and at a change management level where we're helping them understand what's in it for them, right, as part of that change.
Yeah, it's change management is hard because that's psychology, and getting people to be able to shift to something different, especially if your company has come in and replaced a competitor or replaced a software system that they were comfortable with and they maybe didn't see the need for a change. That can be tough, reaching those people and being able to foster adoption with them. So that's going to take, it's not just change management, that's also going to require empathy and active listening involved in that, and understanding, what does this mean to them? How is this affecting their life? Like, what is their experience and what is their reaction? And being able to ask questions around that so that you kind of open them up a little bit. It's a silly analogy, but think of it as a closed flower that hasn't, like, you slowly nurture it a little bit and it starts to open up. And I know, again, that's cheesy, but
It is cheesy.
It's it is, but it's the truth. It is the truth.
It is. You got to water it. You got to nurture it. You got to give it sunlight. And you need to understand, in order to get somebody from to where you want them to go, you need to understand where they're coming from, right?
Yes.
You need to understand where they're coming from, both literally as well as metaphorically, right? You need to understand their perspective. You need to understand what is preventing them from moving, because the response of, well, this is the way we've always done it, which people tend to kind of default back to, especially when faced with something new that they now need to address, they need to embrace. It's real easy to fall back to that.
It really is. And it's so interesting that you just brought that up, and actually quite relevant, because that is a challenge that I've been facing in the last few weeks or maybe a few months, with a project that I'm working on with an internal team, and we're working to get things globally aligned and for our CS teams. And I keep hearing, a lot of, well, why do you want to do, when I ask, why do you want to do it that way? Why is this your suggestion? I'm hearing a lot of, and maybe, I'm paraphrasing it, because that's just the way we do it here.
Right. Or that's the way we've always done it.
That's the way we've always done it. And navigating around it, and I'll admit, I can definitely be doing a better job and taking my own advice, which I'm trying to, step back and say, how can I approach this? Hey, it's active listening and it's empathy, right? I have to understand, where is it that they're coming from? What are they holding on so tightly to? And what do I need to do to reach them? And realize that I'm not here to battle you on things, but I am trying to challenge your train of that train of thought, but also get us to all get to the same place together, so that we have things to achieve. Like, how do we keep moving forward?
Right. Exactly.
Hard.
Yeah, it is. It is hard. It definitely, none of this is easy, and it requires a lot of practice. Right. So I mean, how do you, any suggestions on how, I hate to put it this way, but learning how to ask questions? I think people think, what do you mean learning how to ask questions? That's something I can ask you. What do you mean by learning how to ask questions? There you go. I just learned how to ask. I just asked you a question, right? But there's a method for doing that, or there are various methods for doing that. But how do you move from one question to another? So kind of like some of the things that we learn in maybe Sandler or spin selling, where how do you open it? And how do you ask that initial barrage of questions, and then how do you move from the answers to those questions to the next set of questions?
It's something that, like I said, I can't say this is exactly like, here's the epiphany. I can tell you what I've learned and how I've done it, because it's something that I'm constantly iterating on and evaluating myself. Like, how can I do better? Or, after a meeting, shoot, that could have gone better. And that actually happened recently, because like I said, even in a position, whether you're, middle management, upper management, there's all things we can continue to learn and be better at. So I think, I think it starts with listening, because we all go into, I think we default to going into these meetings, whether it's a kickoff call, an internal call, whatever it is, we go into these meetings with an agenda. And of course you should have an agenda. You just don't want to go in free form the whole time. You may not get anything accomplished, right? But I think often we try to over-engineer it, and we need to get through all these questions because this is what I have to ask you. When yes, you want to have an outline, but oftentimes you're not necessarily going to hit every mark, because you might be digging deeper on the things you're hearing from those people.
Right.
And you want to have some leading questions. And in certain cases, something, you might be asking a follow-up, and they're going to give you an answer that you might want to say, hey, you know what? How is that affecting you? Because what I'm hearing is that's been causing some bottlenecks for you and your team. And it's caused you to not meet, to miss some deadlines and not be able to fulfill, those reporting requirements. Obviously, I'm making this up, but, how is that affecting you? And getting them to really, open up and tell you, okay, so that what I'm hearing is this is that. We go there. So if we were able to alleviate that a little bit by X and Y, or this is what I'm thinking, how does that sound? How would that be helpful to you? Because I really just think it all starts with listening and kind of letting them run with it, and then leading the conversation through what they're telling you.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's asking, learning how to ask questions is not coming in with a list of 10 questions that you need to cover. It's figuring out what is the best question to ask to get me into a conversation about a subject that we want to have, that we want to have a discussion on. Right. So it's that initial opening salvo. Right. And maybe you have a second question listed, but if you're going into a meeting with a customer for half an hour, you should have like one primary question. And and if you're doing it right, you've got, that question leads to a follow-up question, which could lead to, okay, let's peel back the onion a little more, right? Instead of, okay, check that off. Okay, go to the next one, because you could be missing the opportunity. God gave us one mouth and two ears, so we listen twice as much as we speak. Right?
I like that.
And that's what we should be doing. You like that?
Yeah.
You can use that. It's not mine. I forget who said it. Who said it. I should probably remember, because I use it all the time. I used it earlier today, as a matter of fact. But it's true. It's true.
It is.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's active listening. And you also want to stop them at places too, and it's okay to interject. Listen, I am the queen of running on. You can ask any of my colleagues. So I appreciate when someone interjects and says, hey, this is what I've heard so far. Because it also helps. It helps me.
It's that Brooklyn in you, right?
It's just New York.
It's just New York in general. It's just that New York in you.
We move quick. We talk quick. We walk quick. It's just who we are. It's the East Coast. Yeah. But, I can get carried away. So I appreciate though when someone can interject and be like, okay, stop for a second. Let me make sure I heard what I heard. Let's make sure. And you can do that because that's not a rude interruption,
No.
because you find the right moment and I'll say, okay, that's great. So Andrew, let me make sure I heard you correctly. And kind of paraphrase. I mean, you don't, it hasn't
We
have
have
to be
one mouth
verbatim.
and 2 ears. Let me make sure I heard you correctly. Yes.
Right.
No, but that's active listening. That's a step in active listening, right?
Exactly.
Paraphrasing, repeating it back. If anything, what it does is it proves to the person that you're speaking to that you're actually listening to them.
Well, that's it. And while this is, I'll go a little bit larger here. Human beings, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to feel connection, whether that's personally or professionally. So you make people feel like they're truly being seen and they're being heard. You're creating connection with them. And as a CSM, that is what you want.
That's right. That's it right there. I mean, that is the Venn, right? If we think about a Venn diagram, right? You've got the active listening. So, you've got the open-ended questions and you've got the empathy, and right there in the center, right? Hearing what somebody is saying and being able to paraphrase that back so that they understand that you hear what they're saying, and injecting that, okay, I understand how that, not just what you're saying, but I understand how that makes you feel, right? Or I understand your perspective, right? Because empathy, sometimes people mistake, and I hear it more often than not, they mistake empathy with sympathy. Yes. And they're two different things, right? In empathy, you understand that person's perspective and you acknowledge the emotion.
Well, you feel what they feel in a sense.
Well, so that's sympathy. Sympathy is where you're feeling what they're feeling, right?
Well, it's like empathy. If you tell me, for example, you're telling me a story, you had an argument with like your best friend, and I'm listening to you, and I'm going to be like, wow, Andrew, that sounds like it was really hard. That sounds like it was really hard, and that, was upsetting. And
it was,
would
you tear up? Would you tear up? I mean, really sell it to me. Would you start tearing up?
This is why I never went into acting. I cannot cry on demand. I'm terrible. Unless you're going to show me some things that happen to puppies and kittens. Don't ever do that.
No.
Nothing should happen to puppies and kittens.
I would never.
But it's hard to make me cry these days, I think. But yeah,
I'm all crying. It's 2020. I'm all cried out.
Exactly.
Right?
In the immortal words from the 80s of Lisa and Cult Jam, I am all cried out.
You are all cried out, baby.
I'm really dating myself with these references.
You so are. And so am I, because I know all those references. It's quite scary. Anyways, I'm sorry. I digress. But yes, that makes a real impact. I mean, to your point, it's what you're ultimately trying to do is you're trying to create a connection, right? And when you listen and you ask the right questions and you express that empathy, that three-legged stool, that Venn, right? You open up. It's like I could have that Venn diagram, and then like this. I'm thinking of from the marketing perspective. This like it's like a slide into this giant, just wonderful world of connectivity with our customers, right? We're connected, right? And we've established this connection because, hey, you're listening to me.
Yes. And like I said, this goes such a long way, like especially in like your partnership kickoff call. That's the first time you're talking to someone, at least from the CSM side. Like they've talked to either your marketing or your SDRs, your AEs, whoever else might have been in part of that sales cycle. And now they're here, and it's like, I want to show them that I've also been listening because I've talked to the AE. So I've listened to them tell me about you, but now I want to dig a little deeper. And hey, Andrew, this is what I heard. You've been frustrated. You haven't, whatever it is with your website, from talking from a Searchmetrics aspect, like how has that affected you? And, and then I'm going to let you speak and say, hey, so what I've heard is this has been what's happening so far. this is why we're here, and kind of, take that conversation where it goes. Like I said, I'm really simplifying it here. But you can use it in that sense. You can use it in a difficult conversation. In fact, I think that's probably one of one of the best times to use it. I mean, not that there's really a best time, I suppose, but I've had to talk to clients that were unhappy, and especially as the head of the team, you know, I'm coming in sort of impartial, but I want to make sure that they feel heard. They're upset. There's something happening. And I'm sorry that there happened. I'm not getting in here to play defense and you're wrong. Like, they feel the way they feel. It's not right or wrong, but how are we going to rectify it? And hopefully we can come to a compromise, because I want to be able to make sure that you feel okay with where we're going. But I also want you to feel that if there is ever another problem, I know that this will be handled and we can have a positive conversation about it, or someone's going to at least hear me, and it's not going to fall on deaf ears.
And that's key. When your customer's you're gonna there's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be a challenge. There's only one time in my entire career where something that I did with a customer went off flawlessly. And it was such a rare, and this has got to be 15 years ago. So I wasn't not even halfway into my career. And it was such a rare occurrence that the leader that I was working with actually sent me a letter saying this. I just wanted to call out to you that this project went so well. We had no problems, and it's the first time in my career that we had a project that went so well. But more times than not, you're gonna have problems, and you need to be prepared to have those difficult conversations, and that's okay. And you have to be ready, willing, and able to have difficult conversations. And sometimes you just need to shut up and listen and let them get that off their chest. But you can't it's not shut up and listen, it's shut up and listen, not shut up and don't listen. Right. Mm-hmm. So you need to be, as the customer is sitting there basically spilling their guts and offloading all of this tension, this frustration that they have about that situation, or with your company, or with your product. You need to make sure that you are acknowledging what they're saying. That doesn't mean you're agreeing with it. You're acknowledging what they're saying. You're acknowledging what they're feeling, right? Sorry goes a long way. And once again, you're not apologizing because your company or you or whatever did something wrong. You're apologizing for the situation that's happened, that's mm-hmm. got them to this point.
Yes.
And I work with a lot of CSMs that have a really hard time understanding that it's okay to apologize, and understanding the importance of empathizing with the customer and listening to the customer and just letting them get that off their chest.
Yes, because if you're newer, or you're just a more junior CSM, or you're a little greener, and actually that's not true. I think I think a lot of people have a hard time with a difficult conversation. It's not called a difficult conversation because it's easy.
It's easy, right? Exactly.
So, I mean, there's that. I think people get nervous as to, like, oh my, it could go, oh my God, this is so bad. They're going to churn. They're going to scream at me. They're going to do this. You know what? They may scream at you. They may do all of those things.
Yeah, they may churn.
But what they have to remember, really very rarely is it super, 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 super personal. So what people have to remember is that it's not about you. It's about something, and you just have to listen to them. Again, active listening, empathy, and being able to say, like you said, apologize. You know what? I'm really sorry that this is the way this particular project has been unfolding, and how it's been what's been going on for this last couple of weeks. Because what I'm hearing from you is that it has caused you a lot of problems. You're not able to deliver those executive reports that you thought you would by this time, and that's on us.
It's so not about you. It's all, it's not about, and when I say you, I mean to the CSMs out there that are listening, it's not about you personally, right? This is all about them. Not that they're the problem, but this is all about them and how they're feeling and their frustration and the impact that it's had on them. So,
Right.
you know.
And it's just about taking the next steps and moving forward. But at the end of the day, the things that we were talking about, active listening, empathy, and open-ended questions, you can apply that to all of these situations.
Yep.
And don't be afraid. It's like, I think it's something you and I believe we talked about this, I want to say probably about a year ago in another one of these MOTs or something
early
else.
MOTs, yeah.
One of the early ones where we talked about the 5 whys, which I use all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes they say the 3 whys, but I like the 5 whys too. It's like someone tells you if you're asking about goals. So, okay, why do you want to achieve that? And then they say again, why? Because oftentimes people's goals are so just like they're not specific enough. But if you keep asking all of these things or why they want to do something, by the time you get to that last why, there's your SMART goal or your OKR or however you want to position that. You'll find out more. So you want to ask more about those specifics and keep asking, and don't generalize too much, because that's also not going to lead you down the right path.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's amazing when you employ things like the 5 whys, how you can move from really kind of vague thoughts and ideas, and you push the person to get specific. And it actually you in some cases you end up helping them. You end up helping them achieve a level of clarity that they themselves may not have had by challenging them. I don't understand why. Help me understand why this is important to your organization. Help me understand why this is important to you personally. Well, because it's yada, yada, yada. Okay, I get that. So why is yada, yada, yada important to, it's, love the 5 whys. Excellent. Yeah. This is great. I think this is once again, this is the type of skill, the types of skills, the type of expertise that you really need to have, to learn, to practice in customer success and customer facing roles.
Agreed. Like I said, I think you definitely need this as a skill here, and it can be honed too. Like, I don't want anyone that's trying to break into CS or that people have just started out. I don't want anybody to start freaking out and getting nervous, because you will learn it over time. But also, if you are working for the right company and you have the right leader, someone will, they will help develop and coach you to that extent too. So I don't want people to freak out and, oh my God, I need to know this and I don't, because I'm seeing a lot of that out in the channels, and I need to know all X, Y, and Z of all these things. I'm like, there's things you will learn and you can get and you can acquire, but also working for the right person is going to help that too.
Yes. And if they're super smart, they'll put you through a success coaching training course.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say that. I'm like, and you can acquire it through Success Hacker.
That's right, through the success coaching training course.
Yeah, exactly.
So shameless plug for our own stuff. Actually, it's not shameless. I have absolutely no shame at all, whatsoever. So, Shari, thank you as usual. It is a pleasure speaking with you. We definitely will need to do this again and do this on a regular basis.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me, Andrew. I always enjoy speaking to you as well and being part of these.